Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Bi-Weekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Good evening, and welcome to the November 6th, 2024 meeting of the Exeter Budget Recommendations Committee. Begin with introductions. My name is Bob Kelly. I'm the chair of the committee and chair of the Water and Sewer and DPW General subcommittees. Chris?
Hey, Chris Suter, and I'm subcommittee chair for Library, Human Services Funding, and Parks and Rec.
My name is Fran Hall. I'm on the Water and Sewer Subcommittee.
Andrew Elliott, DPW General.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all. Corey Stevens, Finance Director.
Good evening, Melissa Roy, Assistant Town Manager.
Good evening, Russell Dean, Town Manager.
Don Cloutier, Fire and Police.
Good evening, Anthony Zwan, 7 Marlborough Street, Water and Sewer Subcommittee.
Judy Ruin, Police Fire Chair.
Anna Graver, General Government Subcommittee.
Liz Canada, Library, Human Services, Parks and Rec Subcommittee.
Christopher Zigmont, Crestview Drive, and I'm on General Government Subcommittee.
Amanda Kelly, General Government and DPW.
Thank you, everyone. And with us off mic are several staff members as well as Select Board Representatives Nancy Belanger and Dan Chartrand. And I think that is it. So tonight we're going to be doing Library, Human Services, and Parks and Rec. Chris is the chair of that subcommittee, and she'll walk us through the various budgets. We're going to mix things up a little bit. At the request of the library subcommittee. They felt like things might go quickly, so we'll take them first. So Hope Giordino is the executive director, and Chris, take it away.
Oh, my behind. I'm in charge tonight. Things will go quickly. Come on now. No. Thank you.
I'll slow you down.
Yeah, I know you will. Stating the obvious.
Just kidding.
He's been good this year.
I know. They say shame is not a good thing.
Back on track.
Oh, yep, that's right. That's right. You should never hand off the mic to me. Okay. All right, thank you all, and thank you so much, especially staff and any volunteers that are here on their time. I kind of picked up from other folks. I should read this since not everybody has it at home. So the BRC subcommittee met with library director to discuss their budget and the continued impact of renovations on the community. The library is governed by a board of directors who set and approve the library budget. They follow a similar process where the board meets with staff and spends time receiving all line items before approving the budget. State law governs this as a protective measure for local libraries. The BRC does review the library budget to understand how the budget will be spent in the upcoming year. Our role is not to suggest changes to the budget, but our input is taken into consideration by the staff and the library trustees for future budget years. Our review also helps us better understand the workings of the library and their expenditures. 2025 library budget shows a 5% or $58,925 increase from last year. Some of the increase is due to the increased utility cost. The library was used as a cooling center this past summer, and the resulting utility usage went up significantly. Another factor in the increase is due to the new pay scale, which wasn't implemented until July. The library returned to the town's non-union personnel salary scale. Increased costs of benefits were the same for the library as they were for the rest of the town. Programming continues to be robust and inclusive of all ages. Of note, the summer reading program offered over 20 programs per week. The library also is introducing the National Library Service for the Blind and Disabled BARD program. This program provides books and magazines to those that are visually impaired. We have no changes recommended. I'm going to pass this off to Hope, who will probably make some corrections to whatever I said. There's always something wrong. But I would like to say, because this comes up every year, and this a frustration with the library, why do we bother to review this? Because they have their board of trustees, and they review and they approve before we even meet. And what I'd like to say is that anyone has the opportunity to attend their meetings, that they typically meet the fourth Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. And they put aside 15 minutes for public comment. So we do have the opportunity on a monthly basis to go and provide input. So we are not hamstrung in any way. So just want to say that off the bat, in case we forget. And now I'm going to pass this off to Hope, who I'd like to talk about some of the things that have taken place this year, anything of note, and anything you'd like to correct that I said.
No, there's no corrections. I would like to add that we have now a library of things, which include telescopes, sewing machine, metal detector, digital recorder, a karaoke machine, things that people might want to try out and don't want to buy, but after they try them. Okay.
Take two.
Take two.
Yes.
Library of things, take two. We don't have any take two. Telescopes, sewing machine, metal detector, digital recorder, karaoke machine. As I say, it's things that you can check out of the library and take home for 2 weeks to a month and try it. We have a lot of different games. We have some outside games. Like we have a giant, one of those Connect Fours. We have a giant Connect Four the kids love, and we take it outside. Sorry, that game, but a big one that you can play outside, that type of thing. Where parents might want it for a party or something, or adults might want it for a party or something, but you don't want to buy it. You want to borrow it. It's like borrowing a book. It's that easy. Exeter is the New Hampshire Video Game Library. Was started with funds from the humanities and from the federal government. We have 200 video games, and we lend them to the rest of the state. If they need a video game, they come to us. If they need a machine, like a switch, we have the switches to lend, and it's all that money that we got from the federal government and from Humanities Council. We have Seacoast Readers Theater, who come and do live theater readings at the library. That's new. We have music, we have art shows. We have art now every month by a different local artist, and many of them have sold some of their art. Others have become part of the art community that they had not been part of before because they didn't realize it was available. We sponsor much of what the American Independence Museum does, the Racial Unity team, and we sponsor their annual poetry contest. We host Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, the Daughters of the American Revolution. We have 11 of our own book groups, and we now support 7 local book groups that do it at different people's homes, but we get the books for them. As you said, in the summer we were a cooling place. We get books in various forms: large print, regular print, audios, e-books, downloadable books. We also have downloadable consumer reports that people can access from their homes. All they need is their library card. If you don't have a library card, you're missing out. There's all kinds of things that you can do from your home. You don't have to come to the library because we sponsor them. Consumer reports is one of them. There are a number of different magazines and newspapers that are online that you can read with your library card. We do, of course, summer programming. We do all of our programming. We develop ourselves, present ourselves, publicize ourselves. Kind of an example of comparisons to us to other libraries. We're open 56 hours a week. The library in Hampton is open 36 hours a week. The library in Rye is open 42 hours a week. We do approximately 100 programs a month. Elaine, Hampton does about, I think, they do about 36. Stratham does about 60. Rye does about 59. So we're a very busy library. And many of the programs that we present are things that residents have come to us and said, gee, I want to learn how to do such and so. We've added Taiwanese learn Taiwanese, you can come to the library and do that. We have Spanish. If you want to learn Spanish, come to the library. If you like to play mahjong, we have 2 different kinds of mahjong. If you like to play bridge, we have 2 different kinds of bridge. I never knew there were 2 different kinds of bridge. The other thing I wanted to show you was, and you mentioned this is BARD. This is a federal program. It stands for Braille and Audio Reading Download. And it's for all types of books. It's from the National Library Service, Library of Congress for the Blind and Print Disabled. It's a difference from what they used to have. This is coded so much that if you can't see or see very little, you can tell by feel. If you can read Braille, it's Braille. But you can tell by feel because every button is different. And every button, when you press it, says what it is.
Player on.
And then
Books.
it tells me the
Midnight Feast.
It'll tell me the books.
The day after the solstice. Time remaining.
The other thing is this, the play button, it tells you, and you can feel them. I'm going to pass this around.
Now the other guy turns to the player on.
But what is good about this is in the past, if you needed this, you had to get a doctor's note. You don't anymore. You come to us, or we come to you and say, this is available, and that's what we've been doing. We went to Riverwoods, we went to Water Street, we went to Langdon Place. We asked people what they would like, what they like to read. We talked to them about what they like to read, so we helped them choose the books. You get 5 books at a time. It comes in a little cassette, and this, you could drop it. It can do whatever you want to it. It's not going to break, and it only goes in one way. It's so well done, and it's not just for adults who have vision problems. It's also for people who can't hold the book. They also have children's stories. So if a child can't really use, an iPad or something like that, or even an old cassette player, this a child could use because it's intuitive and it's instructive. So anybody, and we've started signing up people. What happens is we sign you up, you say what you need for books, and this will come to them in the mail, plus a cassette like this in the mail. Once they get it, we ask them to call us so one of us can go out and explain, make sure they know how to use it so they don't get frustrated. And then after they're good with it, we leave them alone, of course, and when they're ready, they can either call us and say, I don't know what I want for books, give me a suggestion, or they can say, I'm ready to send this back, and they just have to put it in the mail. It costs them no postage.
Oh, super.
Okay, so this is something we're working on right now, and we're doing a real push. We'll have, besides going to places, we're having informational meetings at the library for anyone who's interested. If they're interested for themselves, or they have a friend, or a relative that might need something like that. So this is the type of thing that libraries do now. We're more than just the books. We're more than just the person who's on the other side of the desk handing you a book or reminding you your book is due or asking you for your library card. We have all kinds of services because in this town, people like having certain things. They like something different every once in a while. Or they like the response, oh, you want to learn Taiwanese? Let's see if we can find someone who can do that. So, anyway, I think that's all I have.
I'm sure there's some questions, and I want to thank Hope. I also should point out Liz is on the committee with me. I know she's feeling a little under the weather type, may not want to say anything because her chest is a little bothering her, but if Liz has any commentary that she's able to get out or questions.
Does anybody want to?
I have 2 items that are late to the library, everyone, because we do use the library at our house. I thought that was really cool because when you see something like that, you're like, oh, that must cost a lot. And it's entirely, it's not in our budget. It's part of the federal program. It is free for Exeter folks to use it. It is literally, they get it in the mail. They finish the books, they drop it right in the mail. They don't have to package anything. Like, all of it is taken care of for them. And there are resources in the library for them to be able to use this program. So it's new, which is really exciting.
it's free, and the only thing we have to do is give them the support that they need.
Yeah, which is very cool.
I had one question in your outdoor library of things. Do you guys have lawn darts?
No.
Oh, okay. Shoot, can't find those anywhere.
I don't think you can buy them.
you can't find those anymore.
You can get the ones that have suction cups or rubber on the end, but no.
Okay, thank you.
It'd be dangerous.
Bob?
Oh, can I, sorry, Hope, can you also just talk a little bit about like the teen programming? Because like our boys go on certain days and so forth, but maybe just a little bit. So there's how much the library covers all ages. So maybe you could just tell a little bit about what it's like for young people.
Yeah, we have, we have a teen room where they're always welcome, and we have teen programming each day of the week, something different. We just finished having an art contest for the teens, and they were the ones who blind ballot chose the winner, and the winner won a few little things. But we have a lot of kids who brought in their art. We do book groups with the teens. We have a Friday refresh where to start the weekend they can come in and have a beverage. We make all kinds of types of cool drinks that they're interested in. We do a lot of tasting. They like food, so we do a lot of different tastings for the kids. They have gaming all day Wednesdays, whatever time the kid comes in. And it's for kids who go to school, for kids who are homeschooled, for kids that are just dropping by. But we have gaming available for them. We have a specific collection that we curate specifically for that age group. So any book that they're interested in, if we don't have it, we'll get it for them. And if it's a popular book and 5 or 6 kids want it, and it's going to be out for a month, well, we may buy a second copy. But we have found that by having the room, having the collection, and offering the programming, we have more teens, because we also got the bus to stop at the corner of Stringbridge and...
That's a big deal.
Is that Chestnut? Yeah. Stringbridge and Chestnut that drops the kids off. But we found putting all of that together and listening to them, because we have a teen advisory committee.
Oh, that's cool.
And listening to them, they spend a lot of time in there. And we're fine with that. That's why we're there. And with children, too, we have a lot of children programming. The difference is children can come in with their parents. If their parents want to bring them in, they can come in and stay as long as their parents stay. The teens, their parents aren't going to bring them in because the parents, they're older. I mean, they're not going to be in with mother. So having the bus drop them off and having them know that the room is specifically for them, we even chase out adults that are not with teenagers. They come and they stay and they use the materials, and the books are always going out.
Judy? Sorry.
Hope, what does this mean here? The library returned to the town's non-union personnel's salary scale. Had they been union before?
No, we were never union. What happened was we were on the non-union scale for about 4 years, but there was a change in the scale in between, and we hadn't been on that new change until July of this year. That's the only difference. We've never been a union.
So you were just on a different scale?
We were just kind of balancing ourselves on the old scale until we could get on the new scale.
Okay. And is there more than one of these machines?
Everybody who wants one gets one. This is ours for now, but anybody who wants one gets a machine, and as many times they can get new books as they want.
Okay, thank you.
And it all comes in the mail, and you'll see that the plug on the back is attached, so you aren't going to lose that either.
Tom?
It's almost as much a question for the Board of Trustees, and I see Kathy's here, but anybody can take a stab at it. Does anybody ever look at the library budget in terms of comparisons to other communities relative to per capita cost, or as a percentage of the budget of the town? In other words, are there any metrics that are applied as you're looking at your budget? I know you mentioned the hours. We're open more hours than other towns, for example, but And that directly translates into manpower and costs, for example. So I'm just kind of curious whether someone's looking critically at that, sort of the numbers and the metrics of that.
We do
For
that.
this town in comparison to maybe other towns. And, we asked the same question about police departments, fire departments, what have you. So I'm just curious if anybody's looking at that.
We do look at that. We make a report every year to the Institute of Museum and Library Sciences. It's a federal report. And every time we do that report, we look at towns that are near us to see how many people they have, what they're paying, what they're using for their public services, how they're using their public services, how many programs they do, how many kids show up, how many children come to their programs, how many adults come to their programs. We look at all of those and see where we sit with them. And right now, we do more programming than most of the, except for the big libraries. I'm sorry, Portsmouth, Dover, Nashua, Concord, those are big libraries. They're big libraries. But in comparison to libraries our size and slightly bigger, we do more of everything for about the same cost as other libraries are getting.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? I have one. In the budget, and I should have mentioned this off the top, we're on page 29, down under Public Services, 55233, the budget, original budget, preliminary budget, says $30,000. And in the subcommittee report for Public Services, it has $13,000, which is the difference between the library budget and the subcom report and then what is shown in the budget. So is that a real number? And if you could maybe, I know we go.
I'd love the 30, but Mr. Dean said that they were trying to keep the budget at 5%.
Okay.
That's what we did. We kept it at 5%.
Okay. And can you just give a broad brush? Again, there are some new people in the committee and people tune in, vast thousands of people tune in every year, and especially for your discussion. Could you just give a broad brush of what Public Services includes?
Okay. It includes books, adult books, children's books, teens books, teenage books, periodicals or magazines, newspapers, museum passes, building maintenance and repair, gas, because we have a gas furnace, electricity, telephone, water and sewer, service contracts. Service contracts for us are the elevator and the HVAC system. And they are some of the contracts that we have for the downloadable books that people do with their library card. Microfilm, because we put the newsletter on microfilm. We have it back to way back. Supplies, just office
So everything
supplies.
non-salary, basically.
Everything but
that you
salary.
have to spend
Education.
is in that line.
Yeah, everything else is there. Anything we need to run the building. Internet, we used to get the internet free, but now we have to pay.
Okay.
The other thing I want to clarify or ask her is that you talked about all these, like the library of things and stuff like that. Don't want to make it something you guys pay for, or you get it for free, or is there a combination?
Some of the things people give us because they've tried it and they don't like it anymore and it's still in good shape, or their kids have outgrown it. That's how we got a couple of other telescopes. They had telescopes for their kids. They've outgrown it. They've given it to us. The karaoke machine, I think we bought. But much of the other things, like the sewing machine, someone bought a sewing machine, decided she wasn't going to use it. She gave it to us. A lot of the games we get that way too. I think the not lie detector, metal detector.
Yeah.
Is a gift.
If you get a lie detector, I get anyone with teenagers would like to check that out.
But a lot of the people know that we have it and we will let other people use it, and so they give it to us.
So the $30,000 in the original budget was an estimate? Because I know last year, effectively, it was level funded. So
Yeah.
you didn't have any increases in maintenance contracts, utilities, things like that.
Well, it was because we found that our electricity was a little more expensive than we thought. And
Last year or so far?
This year, yeah. And the service contracts have gone up, especially Hoopla and Libby, which are downloadable books, movies, TV shows, music. Those you can download with your card, with your library card, but we pay, depending on how many people use it, we have to pay that a certain amount of money. And it's gotten so popular that that's cost even more money.
Okay.
So that's where the money difference is.
Is the year-to-date actually exactly what the budget is? Or do you know what the year-to-date is on that line?
I don't know.
I'm
On the
asking,
library
sorry,
services.
I'm asking Corey. Yeah.
On library services.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, 55233.
Yeah, so we cut a check to the library as requested by them throughout the year. So it is fully been handed over at this point. That's why it would be.
So, and
the
you
year
don't
to-
know what the year-to-date is, because we still have,
Oh, I have.
Two.
I could find that. I know what that is. I mean, I
The
can
year to
find
date
that if
is
you want it.
187.5 because they took all the.
that's what they
Right.
took.
6
I
months.
guess what I'm interested in is what they've actually spent. Are they going to
Oh, that-
overspend that?
know that.
We don't know that.
We don't have an account.
We won't well, we're trying not to overspend that. But I can get that to you. I can send that to you. I just have to go.
Well, it's
Does
sort of-
it basically
the horse
come
is
in?
already out of the barn at that point.
But I guess the question would be, does it basically,
It comes in, it goes out. We pay our bills with it.
right, but does
If it
the
shows up, we pay it.
does the end of the year basically match what the budget that was provided?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it will.
Not in the black, not in the red, just kind of
No.
balanced.
And you do
Okay.
have a reserve account as well, so that if the difference between the 30,000 original request,
No.
You didn't lose.
No, we used it for the bricks to finish the building.
so what happens if, I mean, cutting it from 30,000 for, especially for utilities and maintenance and buying,
Well, what
Your
we
supplies.
would do is, well, we're going to do anyway, is we always go out looking for grants. And
Okay.
then at this time of year, if we look like we're not going to be able to have something, we change what we do. We still offer the service, but we may offer it differently. For example, kids' book groups. We usually buy paperback books for the kids so they can build their own library. If it looks like money is tight, instead of doing that, we'll do interlibrary loan, and we will borrow books for the book groups.
got it.
So there are various ways to.
Tom?
Yeah, thanks. I did serve on the subcommittee a few years back, so I assume this was done, but it's funny, sitting on the general right now and just seeing this line item, public services, 200,500, and the wide range of things that it funds. If it was another department, we'd want more discrete line items on our budget, right? On our budget. Now, I understand, you know, that the
I'm not sure
library
that's
is
true.
different, but if this was water and sewer, we'd be breaking out utilities, et cetera.
I wouldn't.
Righto, but, okay, I'm just stating the obvious as I am doing. So sitting on the general, I would love to see that as part of my thing, and this is the first time I'm seeing it. Now, I'm assuming that the subcommittee, well, first of all, that the Board of Trustees does that, and that secondly, that maybe the subcommittee has seen that. So maybe it's not necessary in our book, but I'm struck by it nonetheless.
I would look at this as the same way as the maintenance projects and health and human services that Chris will be talking about in a minute. That another entity QCs the details.
Yeah.
And they give us the thumbs up on this amount, and we either like the bottom line amount or not, but we're not
Right,
we're
but
not
this
gonna
is literally, I had
micromanage.
to ask the question, and this is when I got the
But we're not
answer.
going to micromanage their.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but we
budget.
are reviewing the budget, and it's $200,000, and so that's why I'm asking the question. And, I'm all just about transparency. So now we have it, and I thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things too, though. I mean, I know everybody loves throw on that word transparency, so to kind of give themselves to say whatever, but I mean, we get in the weeds for you guys, so you don't have to get in the weeds. Same thing, like I said, with human services funding. I'm in the weeds with my 3 other committee members, deep in the weeds, so you're not dragged into them. But yeah, it's reviewed by us, and it's reviewed by the trustees, and it's reviewed by the staff, so there's so many layers that, if we were to do that to you guys, we would be here all night and all day tomorrow, and be exhausted, and everybody would quit, so.
But I am glad to get this list, because that's exactly what I was asking.
This isn't
Thank
going to
you.
go that long. So this is thank you for putting this together. It'd be, to Ton's point, not that we're going to necessarily change anything, but we'd like to at least get a feeling
Sure.
of what the differences year to year are.
I think we talked
And
about
so
that.
next year, if you could put maybe last year, this year, and next year on it, that would be spectacular.
Of course I
That'd be
can.
great, thank you.
One other thing I wanted to tell you was, in the last 12 months, the library has saved people who use the library for books, magazines, downloadables, books and magazines, newspaper. We've saved, is that $2,458,587
Nice.
for people who use the library.
That's awesome.
Great.
Can I have a quick question? I noticed that there's a greater expense for adult books than for combined teens. Is that a matter of cost or usage? What does that reflect?
It's cost,
Okay.
because adult books now are about $30. Even with a discount, they're still more expensive than children's books and teen books.
It's just curious.
I think I know the answer to this, but just clarification for the broader group. A lot of times, it says anticipated donations, $20,000. So, we don't, because the library has their own internal budget, we don't necessarily have to approve the full amount, and then the donations become part of revenue because they have their own separate accounting.
Those go directly to the library.
Right. Okay, so we don't have to approve the full amount of their needs. We approve what, the donations as a minus from their full needs.
Right.
And that's what is
Right.
on here.
I understand.
Yeah.
Again, more of a clarification.
Right.
I'm channeling my inner Ton.
Thank you, Bob.
Don?
On the donations, that could be materials as well as cash?
That donations is just cash.
Just
or
cash.
Cash checks, credit card.
Never used one.
Anybody
Cool.
can donate to us, by the way.
Good plug, well done.
Do we get a cool little Christmas tree ornament like the Historical Society?
We'll
Should
get a
do
big
that.
thank you, though.
Do that. Excellent.
Handwritten.
Pay for a book. I'll
Any
put
other
your
comments or
name in it.
questions? We'll start with benefits and/or wages adjustments, if there are any.
Yes. No adjustments to salaries total. First adjustment comes with healthcare. New healthcare number is 122,879, 122,879. New dental is 6,267, 6,267. The new health buyout is 3,800, 3,800. Moving down to unemployment compensation, the new number is $184. Workers' comp insurance is $3,446, 3,446. And liability insurance is $1,639, 1,639. And just to confirm, you all have library services at $200,500.
Well, we'll have to make a motion for that.
That's fine, but I want to make sure you have that.
We
right.
do have that.
Yeah.
So total benefits?
Total benefits is $283,283. 283.
Okay, thank you. So I will entertain a motion to revise Public Services 55233 to $200,500.
So moved.
Judy, moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And
Liz? Liz, seconded, thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And the new total library, Corey?
$1,262,381. 1,262,381.
Entertain a motion for that number.
So moved. Liz.
Liz moved and
second, Andrew.
Andrew seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hope.
Thank you.
Percentage? Your staff and the cast. Corey?
6.5.
6.5.
6.5.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, we are moving on to the Human Services Funding Committee. All right.
Which is on page 27 at the bottom.
We have Pam McElroy here, who has recently passed the baton, or is in the middle of passing with support. So the subcommittee reviewed the Human Services Funding Committee's budget and was impressed to see how efficient the committee has become, and that the committee now consists of 4 members who review the numerous requests for town funding. Much of that efficiency can be attributed to Pam McElroy and now Clarissa Coppin, who work closely with numerous nonprofit agencies as well as county and state resource providers. These connections resulted in getting the needed resources into the community by first exhausting those networks. Pam passed on these duties to the new part-time Welfare Human Services Administrator, Clarissa Coppin, who is quickly learning the ropes and is a great addition to the team. The subcommittee applauds the works being done by the department and the committee. So the Human Services funding request of $97,910 for 2025 shows a slight decrease from 2024. One agency that normally applies for funding did not do so this year. Funding was also reduced for one agency as the number of Exeter residents receiving services from that agency has declined significantly. Most funding requests remain flat, and any increased funding requests that were granted showed a corresponding increase in services to Exeter residents. All agencies met the funding requirement of offering services that help meet basic needs such as food, shelter, medical, and mental health needs, as well as services for at-risk children and the elderly. The majority of the agencies work regularly with the Exeter Welfare Office to respond to the Exeter needs, resident needs. And we have supplied a brief description of the agencies, and we have no changes recommended. I do want to note that I'm the subcommittee chair for reviewing this, but I'm also on the Human Services Funding Committee, so I have a pretty intimate knowledge of that process and the agencies and how we got there. So
And for that,
I can answer those questions. And Pam, certainly, if something you'd love to add, we'll start with you.
I really don't have anything to add. I'm here to answer questions if anybody has any.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Are you're comfortable with these numbers?
Yes, absolutely.
I just had a question on we had a decrease of 3,000 or 4,200 in Big Brothers Big Sisters. They just applying for less money this year, or did we? I think it's a pretty good program.
No, they requested the same amount, but as Chris said,
That was the one agency
we
that
also
dropped.
Yeah, we look at the number of Exeter residents that are served, and the number of Exeter residents that are served reduced drastically
Okay.
over the past few years. So
Yeah.
we did look at the past few years to see
Right,
what
so
the
that's-
trend was,
that's
and it was
that's a-
trending down.
That's a calculus on how many Exeter residents are being served when you think about these numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we look at numbers, we look at percentages, and every service is different, so you can't just go, oh, well, this one did, this, and so then we plug in a formula. I wish we could do that. We can't. But we do look at the numbers, we do look at the percentages, and, especially if someone's asking for, maybe twice as much as another agency is asking for, we did a little digging and said, the number kind of jumped out as being a little bit lower, and so we went back over the last few years and did see that, it had started out much higher and has dropped down over the years, and so we couldn't justify, funding them at the same level. So.
The two that jump out to me, Crossroads House and Women Aid, can you speak to maybe why they asked for so much and you decided not to?
Crossroads asked for $25,000.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yeah.
And last year they received $5,000. We did go up to $6,000, so we increased them by $1,000. But we won't jump that high.
But do you know what their request was based on and why you didn't?
Well, we do know that, homelessness is a problem in the Seacoast, and they do have a lot of programming. But when it comes to the number of Exeter residents that were served, we look at that, and then we decide from there. But we definitely would not make a jump that high.
Yeah.
We just can't.
No, and that's not what I'm saying, but it's a very big jump in the ask and a very small increase in the allotment. So I'm wondering why the 1,000? Why did they asked for 20,000 more and you gave them 1,000 more? So I want to know it's a very small increase.
If I recall,
they asked more.
Yeah, if I recall that their numbers that they provided weren't in line with what we are aware of as far as Exeter residents served.
Okay.
So I think there was a mistake on their end. And I think sometimes,
That's for everything.
here's the thing too, is like, I've worked in the nonprofit world too, and especially in development, there's a lot of turnover, and so you could have a new person that's in that seat writing grants this year that doesn't have the background, or they just simply make a mistake, or or they just decide to ask for the moon and see what they get. Okay. And but yeah, and again, when we talk about with what we, if someone asks for an increase, we specifically put in the application now is that you must justify. You need to tell us like why you need an increase. Did you serve more people? Did your costs go up? And so with Women Aid, they're amazing. I love them because it's all volunteer, and the money, every dollar comes in is a dollar that goes out. But you've got to justify how many more residents that you're assisting.
So they didn't justify it.
It wasn't enough to justify, how much they're asking for. And then we also, at the end of the day, I mean, you put in your little financial hat and you say, these are all great organizations, but we, in a perfect world, just be doling it out. But we can't do that. We've got to be responsible to the community and really, say, we can't supply 50% of their budget or even 10%. It's, I think it's great that Exeter gives to so many. I do know that being on the board of the Charitable Foundation, Exeter Area Charitable Foundation, we go out to some other towns looking for funding as well for towns that we provide services to, and they're not giving out assistance to as many agencies as we are. We are a very good, generous community. They may be some small dollars and some larger, but there are other towns that do much, much, much less. And so we do what we can with the amount of asks that we have, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, I was just curious.
No. These are great questions, and I get them all, and I understand completely. But yeah, we do have about 20 agencies in that ballpark.
We have 21. We had 21 asks this year, and one of them we did deny, so we had 20 that we agreed to.
And we do.
Were raised
Yeah.
or kept level funded.
And it's a very simple application. I highly recommend anyone, you can go look at them, you can look at all the applications online, but you can see how we ask, what other funding do you get? What other municipalities fund you? And, how much do you get? And so that's eye-opening too.
We are specific in the questions that we ask, and we expect specific replies and answers. And if those answers aren't given, then we sort of have to look at that. What we do is when we receive the applications, all of the applications are uploaded to the website, and they're broken up like in groups of about 5 for each of the committee members. And each of the committee members has those 5 that they concentrate on. They read through the application. And then when we get together, as we're going down the list, the person that's in charge of the first 5 will discuss them and talk about the request compared to what the recommended funding should be. And then we discuss each of them, we question, and go from there in making the recommended funding.
How big is your committee? Who else is on it?
There are 4 committee members right now. The committee is open for 5. But let's see, it's
I don't know, last name's Cammie. Catherine.
Catherine, oh goodness, Catherine, I'm sorry.
We'll get back to Catherine. It's Sherry Nixon and myself.
Sherry Nixon and Christine, yeah.
Yeah, Sherry and I have been on it for a long time.
Yes.
Chris?
Obviously, a lot of incredible and long-standing organizations on here. One of the bedrock ones that I'm obviously worried about all of them, but Rockingham Nutrition Meals on Wheels has had a little bit of a rollback. Obviously, food costs are going up and things like that, so I'm sure that's impactful. This is a shared expense across other communities as well. Is that right?
The amount here is Exeter.
As far as their total budget, though, right? So do these dollars go specifically to Exeter residents on this budget, or there's really no way to know that?
No, it goes into their general account.
Right.
And then.
But it's based on an assessment of how many people in Exeter they serve.
Got it.
Right.
But if you
Not
notice on
micromanaging how they dispense the funds.
I'm sorry, if you notice on Rockingham Meals on Wheels, last year they were awarded $10,000. This year they only asked for $97.85.
Okay.
And that was sort of a question for us, but, that's what they asked.
Makes
so
sense.
that's
Yeah.
what we're suggesting they receive.
Okay, great. Thank
We
you.
don't know what their reasoning is behind that. Maybe they have a reason, but
Yeah.
they didn't specify what
Yeah.
that reason was.
Yeah, perhaps they have their own formula that they come up with, and because they have a match that they must get in order to get some of their funding, and so they may go by the number of people, the number of hours, the number of this, and do Exeter residents, and come up with that number.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So Chris is going to accuse me of chewing on a bone here, but to Amanda's point here on Crossroads, did you do an analysis on what you thought they actually needed? I know, you gave them a 20% increase. That's awesome. But again, all right, so maybe they made somewhat of a mistake, but it seems like they need more. And to your point about homelessness is a big deal, and I remember at our meeting a few weeks ago where you said that you like to keep people in their homes and not in hotels. So I'm wondering if, and where I'm going with this, is that historically we have assumed a budget of around $100,000 for this. And if you go pre-22, we always spent around 100, if not slightly more. Mm-hmm. And in post-COVID, and I get 20, 21, maybe even into 22, but expenses do go up. And it seems like the need is getting worse, not leveling off. Right. And I'm wondering why, for want of another $2,100, we don't top this off at 100 like we historically have felt compelled to do, if somebody actually needs it.
Yeah.
Instead of cutting it.
I hope we could tag team on this, because I'm going to have you address their specific numbers or ballparking how many Exeter residents. But yeah, but lower numbers, but also a lot of agencies didn't ask for more money, and if they did ask.
That's fine.
So
I'm looking at really just that one.
Yeah, so that's just one, but a lot of were flat as far as what they were requesting.
I get it.
Some were very small requests. We did have one less agency, and which made a big dent. We've had 2 agencies that merged a year or 2 ago, so that brought it down. So it wasn't like we weren't cutting back.
I'm not questioning your analysis.
No,
I think
nope.
you guys do a fantastic job.
But
I'm
I think
really
it-
looking at just Crossroads.
Right, but it remains to be said that, that's how it whether it goes up or it goes down. It's not because we're going, oh, let's try to get it down to 90,000 this year. It's just, we don't even look at the final number until we have a final number. It's just, we go one by one by one, and then at the end we go, so what are we at? We don't go, oh, we should give more, we should give less. It's never been on the table, more or less. It's just each and every one.
That individually.
I get that.
Yeah,
And
but-
it's a great way to budget.
So looking at this one individually, Pam, would you like to talk a little bit about Crossroads House and their impact on Exeter residents?
It's hard to get people in, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
It's hard to get people in.
There you go.
Yes.
Thank you, Judy.
There are wait lists, and that's one reason why the number of Exeter residents is lower than what we hoped for, because there just aren't the number of spaces available.
Yeah, we've had years, there's 1 or 2 people that they assisted. So giving, $25,000, and I know it's very expensive. Again, you can't, there's no formula, but yeah, it's in, like I said, years past, 1 or 2, maybe 3 people that they were able to, because they're very small and they can only assist so many. So
Yeah, the problem is
Judy?
there's no guarantee that Exeter residents would get a bed.
yeah, it could be 0 next year. Right.
You can increase
Well,
the
that's
funding.
the
but
problem
it-
with doing this analysis for next year. That happens across the budget.
Yeah.
That is difficult.
Yeah.
You have to-
We have space for one more on the committee.
Add to
Sure.
that,
Oh, wait a minute.
One of the things that Clarissa and I have done is when someone is looking for
Can you read that?
a hotel because they're homeless, we, on the notice of decision, we put as a prerequisite to receiving a hotel stay, if it's freezing cold out, is that they contact Crossroads House and they are on their wait list. And as soon as that wait list opens up, as soon as a space opens up, they have to take that space. If they don't take that space, then assistance from welfare stops for them. So we do, Crossroads is important to us because it gives us a step for them in the right direction to get the assistance that they need, whether it be immediate or not. And who knows, in the meantime, there may be a different shelter that opens up, or they may find housing somewhere else, or maybe their voucher came through from the housing authority in the meantime. So a lot of things can happen, but we do use Crossroads sort of as a help to us to say, you need to do this in order to receive assistance moving forward.
Liz?
The other one on here, and I'm sorry, I didn't write down why this was the case, but Haven requested 8,500. That was the other one that had requested more, but I can't remember what the rationale was. I had it written down about making connections for healthcare, so maybe you can speak to that one too, since that, the $25,000 jump, I think the other piece that hasn't been said yet is historically, the amount given is, maximum is 10,000, so 25,000 is very much over what is ever awarded. But maybe you can speak to Haven a little bit, Pam, and why, what happened
So
there?
I do agree that Haven is a very important agency, the type of assistance that they give can save lives. Again, I'm sure it had to do with their application, the numbers of people in the Exeter community that they assisted. And it could be that those numbers went down over the years. So something that I had done for Chris and Liz is a comparison over the years that I've been here. So I started in 2019, and I did a comparison of the funding for those years. So when I go back and I look at Haven, they were granted, let's see, $8,500 in 2019. They were granted $7,500 in 2020. They were granted $7,500 in 2021, $7,500 in 2022, $7,500 in 2023, and $7,500 in 2024. So it's pretty much stayed level, and I think that the reason for that is because of the number of Exeter residents that are served in comparison to the other communities.
Oh, sorry.
Are you all set? Did you
I have another
follow up?
question, but not about this.
No, go ahead.
My other question was, you had mentioned, sending to another shelter. How many shelters are in the vicinity that you might direct people to? I think that maybe is not a common understanding of how many
So-
shelters are actually available.
Yeah, so it depends on the situation. Is it a family? Do they have children? Do they have
Just women?
special needs? Can they climb up onto a bunk bed? Are they elderly? Do they have a criminal history of sexual abuse or physical abuse? All of those things are taken into account when someone is accepted into a shelter program. So depending on the situation, there are different shelters available. Crossroads is the one that has the most opportunity for the most different types of situations.
Committee website.
Seacoast Family Promise has only so many spaces, and they are for families. And they also say that during the day you have to leave. You can't stay there during the day. Most shelters, people have to leave during the day and then just come back at night. We also try to work with people depending on if they have work, if they're working, where are they working? Because we certainly don't want to send them off somewhere that's, up in, say, Plymouth, New Hampshire or something like that when they work here in the Seacoast. So it's also
complicated.
situational.
It is complicated.
Very complicated.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, not really a question, it's going to be a statement, so bear with me. We're kind of doing here what we did a few years back. We're getting into the weeds on this list. These are all really worthy agencies, and I'm sure all of us would love to maximize our contribution to those agencies. But I remember well a few years back that some hard work went into a list such as this, and then during a general, we made adjustments. In fact, at one point, we did like a 5% increase or a 5% decrease. I don't recall the details of it. But enough of us been here long enough to remember that. And I've always regretted it because it disrespected the subcommittee that had put a lot of work into that. And so I don't know which way this discussion's going to go, but I'm going to vote no to any changes because it would be a disrespect to the subcommittee and to the professionals who do this. And that's painful given the worthy causes and the asks, but that's where I come out on it. And so I just want to put that marker down right now on that.
Okay. Fran?
I'd just like to respond. The reason that we have the committee that you've been facilitating, and Chris, is that we wanted as a general subcommittee, or as a general committee, budget recommendations committee, to get away from, changing line items. And in addition, in those days, we had people who would come in for a $500 request, and they'd take a half an hour to do a dog and pony presentation.
Yeah.
It was very time-consuming, and it was really not the best use of our time as the general committee. So we formed this special committee, and it seems to be running just really well. And so I think we should leave them alone. I agree with you.
I agree.
I think we spent a lot of time on like 4 other meetings since this has started, since the kickoff meeting, and 3 other meetings where we've talked about homelessness. We've talked about the problems facing not only our town, but our seacoast area. I think we have a responsibility to some extent to like someone who might be just on the border. And we've said, there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can do, there's nothing we can do. I think Bob is going to talk about the report that the application they submitted that I just pulled up from our town website. And I think there is something we can do, and it's extremely tiny. It's absolutely tiny to go from 97, 9, 10 to $200,000 and just say, yeah, we see you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing. We have actually up their application right here, and it's pretty clear.
Run with that. The intent is certainly not to disrespect the subcommittee. I think the world of Chris and Liz for what they've done over the years, and it's spectacular, primarily because we don't have to do it. and they do a great job. My only angle on this is that, much like the maintenance projects, which that was something that I helped start years ago, was let's pick a number and a goal. You guys make, if it's 10 projects, if it's 30 projects, that's your number. And we sort of had that unofficial number here, and for the last couple of years, we've been under it. Having said that, it appears that there is room on one line item right there in front of us, a $25,000 ask on a $5,000 award last year, which went up from $3,500 the year before, to Pam's observation that homelessness is a real big problem on the seacoast and even in Exeter, that there might be some room to level things out for people who might need it. And to that extent, a letter was written in July, and this is posted on the town's website, from the executive director of Crossroads to the town manager that thanked us for the grant from 2023 from 35 up to 5,000. And they went through an analysis of what the cost was for taking care of Exeter people. And they said there were 8 people from Exeter that they served in FY24, totaling 336 bed-nights. And at $108 a night cost, the cost of serving Exeter residents, not the Crossroads budget, but Exeter residents, was $36,288. So they cut that down to $25,000 as a request. So it wasn't an error, it wasn't a mistake on their part. It was actually them compromising because they knew that 36 was even more of an ask than 25. I happen to think that 25,000 is not something we have the bandwidth to do. However, we do have the bandwidth to do $2,100, in my opinion, to make it the $100,000 that we've historically provided for Pam and her department, previously to dispense. That is way lower than what they clearly need to serve Exeter residents. That's my soapbox, Chris.
Yep, I'm going to get one now because, and I see what I'm a nonprofit person. I volunteer at the SPCA. I volunteer at the charitable foundation. I read all these applications. I spend a lot of time on them. I support these agencies. They were originally, I know no one's agreeing to saying we should give them $25,000, but they're asking, when would we ever give something like 75% of the budget? When would we would never do that for any other agency, first of all. Second of all, if we rounded up to $100,000 this year, because historically that's what's happened in the past as rationale, then are we going to cut it next year when asks go up, and then, so we cut somebody's funding because we want to keep it at $100,000 now. That's our new benchmark. So we got to go, oh, well, we were going to give them this amount because they showed this need, but we can only give them a little bit, or we can't give it to them because we have this one number that we have to stick to. We have never stuck to a number. It's simply based on the applications. But we also keep in mind that, asking for, we almost doubled how much we've given them. I mean, that's a big jump. When the other agencies, we very slowly have increased what we give based on, only based if they have shown that they've had an increase in need or expenses. So just to say, let's round out the number, and we're going to give this agency, and by the way, they're all worthy. So you could look at every other agency and go, well, they're not as worthy. I mean, Charitable Foundation, that's mine. We put warm clothing on children. And let me tell you what, when you have kids and you read some of these letters about these children in Exeter who don't have underwear that fit them right, who don't have shoes that they can wear to keep their feet warm, they're staying at a bus stop wearing an old sweatshirt, and you're going to say that's not as important as another organization. You can't do that. You just can't do that. It's just, it doesn't work. I love the heart behind what we're asking here today, but if you take it that other direction and you look at some of the other agencies, and I can specifically speak to one, and say, you just can't do that. And if you guys want to say, okay, it's $100,000, then make a motion that we get $100,000 every year, or next year we get 110, or whatever, and then we have to work within that. But to just say, let's round it up because we've done 100 in the past is not something I support, and I'm completely against it.
I don't think I was saying that the 21 goes exactly to that one agency. I'm saying there's several agencies on here that didn't get what they asked for, and I think we can afford to split a little bit of tiny pennies across these agencies. I think we can do it. They're all worthy, and
I know they are,
And
but
I
that's
think
not
we
how
can
we do
give
this.
them more of what they asked for.
No, it's not. It's not. No, if you're on the Human Services Funding Committee, it's not how we do it. We don't go, we have $100,000 to spend, let's spend it all.
Well,
Maybe we should.
That was sort of our instruction a number of years ago. And I remember the meeting, it was about 5 or 6 years ago, very contentious, which is when we changed, program and the approach, and
Well, we started the
thankfully you
subcommittee.
stepped up.
And the subcommittee has never gone by $100,000, just so you know. We have never gone with, we have $100,000 to spend. We haven't.
But this year we have huge asks, and that seems like a
I guess that's
reasonable
where I'm
number.
coming from, is there seem to be more asks. And I'm not saying that next year.
Let's make the motion, because I'm gonna go with you here, Chris, as well as Ton, so I'd
Yeah,
like
make
to
a
just
motion.
I don't know how to word it.
I'm just going to make one comment, though, because I think the conversation that's happening is based on the application. It's been pulled up. There's
Just one.
There's right,
Pull up
but I think they're
Yeah.
looking at,
The one you
but I think-
should.
But, and if I can just finish my thought for a moment. They're looking at the one where there's a group that has asked for a significant jump, whereas others, then they're all listed on here, have asked for what they've asked for, and there's only been 2 other exceptions. The AIDS Response Seacoast asked for 500, were awarded 0. Haven asked for 8,500, they've been awarded 7,500. Everybody else on here, as far as I can tell.
Big Brothers Big Sisters asked for 7,200, getting 3,000.
Okay,
That
thank
was
you.
the first one. So I
Sure.
mean,
So-
they've done their due diligence.
So, but what I'm saying is, if looking at the application and it's demonstrating that how many days, 336 days worth of bed is what we're talking about, which is incredibly significant too, I think it is worth evaluating that our overall number from 24 to 25 would be a decrease for, and it does not need to be, that does not need to happen overall. So I will be in favor of what I think Amanda and Bob might be leading to, because I think there is the need. And if you have not read the book Evicted, I would strongly recommend that as well, to remind us what is at stake.
Anna?
I'm coming down closer to Liz. At the same time, I do respect the work that the committee is doing.
Oh, tremendous. That's not the issue here.
Yeah, but I feel like if we can find money to overall address these needs, I would.
We've made changes to subcommittee reports in the past. most of them my subcommittees, because sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes you get it wrong.
It should go to X, Y, or Z, but I do think if we can add support to these, even if it's.
And to the comment about Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Well, which one?
What? Well, hold
Kick
on a
it back to the subcommittee and let them pick.
No.
I don't know.
Big Brothers Big Sisters, my understanding from you, Pam, is that you calculated what was actually allocated towards Exeter residents.
Right.
That's why it's 3,000 that you've given, not the 7,200. So it was based on qualitative, reasoning, much as what we're going down the road is on Crossroads. This is based on their analysis, and we're just trying to react to it, that's all.
If I can
We're not
just
cooking
add-
the books or trying to give anybody any more than what they deserve.
If I could add to, shelters provide a lot more than just a bed. They provide laundry services, they provide food, they provide support services as well, and they also help people in finding permanent housing. So there are other, I don't want to say other programs, but it's a larger,
Great, yeah,
A larger help
they
than just a
outline
bed.
that in their letter as to all the things that it provides. Chris?
Yeah, thanks. So I've been listening for the 20 minutes, 25 minutes that we've been having this discussion. And first, I'd like to say that, yeah, I didn't sign up for the BRC to be a rubber stamp committee for subcommittees. The subcommittee work is really, really important. But the reason why we assemble is to actually have a good look at things. And sometimes they sail right through because it's pretty easy, and sometimes they're really passionate discussions like this one because it means a lot, right? And I know maybe a sewer discussion might mean more to some than others, but this one's really important because it's about our neighbors, and that we're arguing to spend more money on our neighbors that are in need is a good thing, and I don't want that to get lost in the argument about whether we're disrespecting work of subcommittees or not. I don't think we are. I think there's just a robust push here to, if we can give more, and we should, let's do it. And here's some people that have outlined things that meet Pam and committee's effort to make it sort of Exeter resident needs-based things, and I think I would fully support doing that. But honestly, back to the top, to me, it's very much about us taking the time to look at these things a little more finely when necessary. And I certainly hope that the subcommittee doesn't feel they've been trampled on. And, on our subcommittee, we go through things too and have things gone through for us as well. And I think it's just part of the process.
Yeah, and I want to say, I do appreciate questions. I wouldn't want anybody to go, okay, yeah, whatever you say is fine. That's not at all. But if you're asking to increase one organization, going back to the subcommittee, no, if you're asking to increase, because I've heard that, asking to increase, then you have to say, okay, well, let's say there were 6 agencies that asked for more funding this year. So you got to take whatever difference that you have for your 100,000 and divide it up percentage-wise among those. Because how can you say one? If you haven't looked at every agency, have you read every agency's application, then you can't specifically say, we should give it to this organization or that organization, or.
And that's not what the motion's going to reflect.
I don't think I can say
The motion's going to reflect a $100,000 budget for this line, and that would be up to Pam or.
Actually, I'm not a voting member of the Human Services Funding Committee.
I think it should be
Okay.
split
So
out by
it's the
percents
four-
for the ones who.
Well, no, it would
It's
be
the four-
up
I'm
to
sorry.
it would be their
That's
decision.
even better.
All I'm looking to do, based
it's even
on
better.
a perceived need on
Can we
our
hear from
town
the town
website.
manager on that?
I'm sorry?
Could we hear from the town
I don't
manager
care what you
or
guys
from
do.
the finance director on that?
About what?
Can we make?
If you make such a motion and increase it to 100,000, then how does that get dispersed?
I can speak for myself. I would refer it back to the funding committee to distribute those funds.
I would agree. That's why I say that the motion would not reflect, and if somebody made it, I would squash it. It's to make this line $100,000 because of the perceived need of at least one agency of more than the delta that we have available.
So moved.
We're not going to micromanage the disbursements. We're just looking at the overall line to get it back in line with what was done pre-22.
And not a decrease this year.
So that's, I prefer not to make the motion as the
I'd
chair.
like to make that motion, but I'm
Okay.
very shaky and having a hard
Okay.
time talking.
So the motion is what, Mr. Chair?
The motion is to increase the Human Services funding line 55360 to $100,000.
I'd move that.
I second it. Thank you.
Discussion?
Discussion.
Look, it pains me to vote against welfare and, or whatever you'd like to call it, aid. You know the reason I'm going to vote against it.
Great. Okay, so, show of hands, not vocal. All those in favor of the motion to fund the 55360 at 100,000? 6-4. Hey, just raise hands, since everybody put their hands down. Raise
What's
hands
the
for
call?
against.
Oh,
Opposed? Opposed?
I abstain.
Abstain, so 4 against and 1 abstention. Motion passes.
And all that does is send it to the select board, right?
Or whoever makes the funding decisions.
No, we have to reconvene the committee, which is fine. But I'm just saying, what if we come back and you don't like where we put the money?
So my question is.
That's not, no.
That's not
Is that going to be another meeting?
That wasn't the point.
Not a problem.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question?
Sure.
Will the Human Services Funding Committee meet before this goes to Select Board or after Select Board approves the budget regarding allocation?
I don't think that's an issue. The issue here is that we are changing the budget on a line item. I will be at the Select Board meeting in December, and if there is a question, there's 2 members of the Select Board here. I doubt there will be a question. We're just changing the budget. We're not telling people how, I'm sorry?
So it's just the bottom line that you're changing?
Yes,
So
we're not changing
regarding the
anything
recommended
else.
funding?
Absolutely
It's
not.
just the bottom line?
That's all we're
Okay,
doing.
thank you.
Okay, so.
And I appreciate that clarification.
Yes. Okay, so
I'm exhausted now. Can I go home?
I can take the rest.
Well, this-
Greg, I'm sure Greg would love to have me manage the discussion. Well, thank you, everyone, for bearing with.
Thank you,
and,
Pam.
And I think pretty much everyone said something, which is awesome. Thank you for the robust discussion, and
I probably said too
that's
much.
sort of why we're here. And hopefully there are no hard feelings, and
I just think it was,
when
I had misunderstanding.
no
Well,
misunderstanding.
no? Oh,
Okay.
Well, I had a
so
misunderstanding. I
Parks
misunderstood.
and Rec, thank you, Pam, so much for
Thank you, Pam.
filling in
Thank you
some of
all.
the gaps.
All right.
Do we need a new number, or do we skip that?
That's the whole number. That was the number.
That's the budget.
That's the
Right,
whole
but I mean,
department.
the total welfare and human services, do we need to,
We can get that for,
just for laughs and giggles?
yeah, it'd be $278,103.
Well, no, that,
Oh, boy, can you say that again out
No,
loud?
that's not right.
278103.
Yeah.
Sorry, Corey, one more time, sorry.
278103.
Percentage?
14.7.
increase.
There you go.
Can I just add a
Of
comment?
which most was under welfare, before we
Right.
start passing judgment on what we just did. Most of that was what we did.
Yeah, this is
a couple
pennies.
of
Which is
weeks
where I
ago.
think it should be.
Hannah?
I just want to add that I want to underscore that I appreciate the work and thought that goes
No question about it.
into how this is allocated. And next year, I'll be really disappointed if it sums to a total of 100,000. I want it to be a more crafted
Yeah.
number than that.
Yeah.
That's not my intention in supporting this.
And I always feel bad after that I get like, if I get, feel personal about it, but I do appreciate that because it is very individualized examination of each and every application. It's not just throwing out numbers and everybody gets 10,000 or 2,000.
You
It's,
get 10,000.
yeah, you get 10,000. So I appreciate that.
That's not
All
the
right.
process. That's not how you've done it in the past. And
No.
we like how you've done it in the past.
All right.
We're just looking at, in the times of need, we need to perhaps adjust our thinking slightly, which is what we did. So, Mr. Bisson, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Hey, guys.
So he's gonna, Greg is the director of the Parks and Recreation Department? Chris, why don't you lead us through this budget?
Yeah, real quick, so thank you guys for hanging in there. Parks and Rec Department, their budget also closely mirrored those of 2024 in regards to expenditures on services, equipment, and supplies. They work diligently to seek out efficiencies, like all other departments, save time and expenses. The increase in the rec budget is largely due to the requested addition of a part-time senior coordinator. Funding for the position will be partially covered by a grant from Exeter Hospital, partially funded by the rec revolving fund, as well as from the department's budget. The subcommittee does support this staff position. And it's the other thing I like, and I'm sure a lot of discussion will probably go into this part of the budget, but I also just want to add that the purchase of the robot mowers that we see, I actually saw some today, freed up the small staff to focus on other projects around town, and no changes are recommended. So.
Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, our budget is as is, pretty lean. We were looking forward to coming in and being amendable for you guys, but we've been busier than ever at Parks and Rec. I say that every year when I come in here. For instance, spring sports were up 33%, which equates to over 300 children playing soccer, just soccer, and baseball. To almost total of 600 kids total in the spring playing sports. Summer camp is almost close to pre-pandemic numbers. We had 285 kids in camp this year, which 27 of them were on scholarships. I know you guys were talking about human services. We solicit organizations to help sponsor those kids go to camp. And then in return, we go and we sponsor the kids going on field trips to give them the full benefit of a summer camp. So we make it all inclusive. We work with many organizations. I'm not going to list them all because I would be embarrassed if I forgot one. But they know who they are, and without them, they really make an impact on us. Our senior programming, due to David Tovey next to me, our assistant director, has been robust. To the point where we received a grant from Exeter Hospital for senior programming. That's why the emphasis of having a senior coordinator to help assist us, especially as we transition to 10 Hampton Road in 2025. I mean, the moment we put out a trip or a program, they fill up, and we have people scrambling to come to our trip. So, and our senior lunches, which have been very successful to date. We've had 2 so far. It's free, and as you know, we're an age-friendly, AARP age-friendly community, and we welcome all Exeter residents over the age of 50. Yes, which I will be joining soon to become a senior. But I mean, we're looking forward to. We are definitely coming up. We've come up with new inventive ideas. Who knew fencing would be so popular in Exeter? But fencing is. I mean, we have a robust fencing program now, and we're looking at various other camps and programs. And yeah, we're looking forward to adding more programs as we move into the new facility.
Excellent. Jude?
This new senior coordinator position, it's a part-time position, you're saying it's funded in part by Exeter Hospital. What sort of a guarantee do you have for ongoing support from the hospital for that?
Judy, we do not have any guarantee for ongoing support. We got the grant this year. We have had no indication that we'll continue to get the grant because we know what everything's going through with that organization. So I can't really say they're guaranteed for 2025 to give us the same award.
So what happens to the position then if you don't continue to get?
That's only $5,200 out of the total budget for that position. So we'd probably come back to the executive team here and ask to have it funded. The difference brought up probably half and half revolving, half general fund.
Unless the position didn't work out, and then you might get rid of the position. It's not.
Correct, but we don't foresee seeing that,
Yeah.
especially with how many seniors.
No, I don't either.
So again, in this case, it's, not necessarily like dam removal. I mean, because so the total the total ask should be around $20,000, but we're getting this grant, so we're only asking for 15. Is that, am I reading
Correct,
this right?
correct. Yep, yep.
So we don't have to approve the full amount and then get the grant and then have that part of revenue?
No, we've already, we've accepted the grant,
Okay,
so we have the grant in hand.
okay. So we can legitimately say we only need $15,000?
Correct.
Got it.
Okay.
Cool. Any further questions, Tom?
Bob, Russ, I guess, maybe. So I see a reference made to Keegan report, which I'll admit I have not read. So I assume then I mean, it's a big deal to hire yet another person, and admittedly part-time. So I guess the executive team has signed off on adding an employee to the payroll for the foreseeable future, given that it's in the budget. Again, stating the obvious, but I'm just shining a light on it.
I can speak for myself in that you guys were very generous as we went through reviewing the HR department, and we started with a part-time person and lived with that to see what the needs were, and we went from there. The Keegan report did recommend a full-time person. We did not feel that that was appropriate right now. We felt that through program revenues, which is what helps us with our rec revolving account, the hospital grant, and then, so it's like a third, was the best and most effective and efficient way to give Park and Rec an opportunity to have this senior coordinator. We are seeing such a huge explosion. A lot of communities in Massachusetts have council on aging. Up here in New Hampshire, we don't have that to the extent that we do. So we have a very large population of aging adult, active, active adults looking for things to do. This is right now been solely taken on by David and Greg and Caroline. And the need is so great that that was where the Keegan reported recommended a full-time person. But to be truthful, the budget was the way it was, and we tried to ask them to think outside the box. And so when the hospital grant came up, we thought about using it for that, and then using some of the rec revolving account, which is made up of fees collected from those 300 kids playing soccer, and taking a small amount of the revenue that we get from there and putting it towards this position.
Before we get into further questions, just for reference purposes, if you look at tab 8 in your budget book, in the very last page, there's a description of the two hires that have been talked about. One was the HR. Go ahead.
Joking.
Oh. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
That's the right question to ask, yeah.
Yeah. Who wants to do it?
Yeah.
So there's the rec senior coordinator here, and then the reason why I bring this up is that it gives the full accounting for what the part-time wages would be, in addition to FICA and Medicare, as well as, which was great by our executive team, to put what the FY26 impact would be if it became more of a 12-month position. So again, this is a FYI as you're considering this request. I have a question. At the bottom there, it gives total general fund, total water fund, total sewer fund, that adds up to about $133,000, which is not what the two positions add up to. So I'm wondering what that all means. Not to sidebar too much, but we are discussing this one.
Money.
So I just want to see what all
We're
the
discussing
different
money.
9 months? Those numbers are for the 9 months, I believe.
Which numbers?
You mean the
No, it's for HR.
For HR.
Got
The HR numbers?
117.7, let's say 118 for HR, and then 32.
Right.
So that should be about $150,000. But the notes at the bottom, general fund, water fund, sewer fund, only add up to about $133,000.
We get
So
it
I'm
back
just-
out the grant,
It's
right?
because
that's great.
the water and sewer fund pieces, the 14.7 each, are 12.5% of the 117. So the senior coordinator doesn't get allocated to water sewer.
But shouldn't they still add up to 150 grand?
God, your job's
No,
complicated.
it's not trying to do that.
Oh, it's not?
No, it's taking, the 14.7 is 12.5% of 117,706.
Yeah, I get that part
That's
of it.
all it's doing. It was helping Laura decide what we were gonna factor in as the allocation to water sewer for the HR person.
So
Who
that
gets
should
an
really be up
allocation
there.
to the water sewer enterprise funds.
Yeah.
So this HR.
So it has nothing
I
to
don't
do
quite
with Parks and Rec?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Work with Park and Rec.
The 104.
But somehow the numbers should add up if they're on there.
So it should be
I'm
above
not quite
Parks and
sure.
Rec?
They weren't meant to add up to one, they weren't meant to add up to the 117 and the 32 together.
Right,
It
so
was
they
a
should be up.
different.
But then they should be meant to add up to the 117.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not telling Corey how to do his job.
I just saw it there, I just don't know what it means, that's all.
I can get
That's
that
fine.
to you.
We need
I'm assuming that,
formulas from the background.
that's fine. But that's
Corey
not-
says
that's
it's
really
so,
not
it's
what we're
so.
talking about.
Several
So
sheets
just
underneath
for
there.
the committee's illumination, we're talking about roughly a $32,000 position, of which wages are about 15 for the 9 months, which would go up to, if it was a 12-month position next year, it'd be almost $44,000. Just as a FYI.
I can tell you what it is. I can tell you what it's doing.
Get your pens warmed
Why
up.
it does not up. So the general fund number of 104, listen closely, it's trying to get at what is the general fund's responsibility. It takes the 117 and it subtracts the two 14,713s.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be the general fund piece of the HR coordinator. Then it takes the 32,125, which is the senior coordinator, and it splits it in half because part's going to rec revolving, and part's going to be in general fund.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bob.
You didn't
You
see,
did.
you
You
didn't
did.
just see that,
It's
Bob?
all on you.
It was
So
right there.
what was that last
Oh,
one
yeah,
again?
yeah, write it down.
So
next year.
Too many arrows here. I need one of Russ's
And I
Was it
told
worth
them
it?
all that.
Was it worth it?
I just wanted the numbers to add up, that's all.
That's what's going on.
Just wanted them to add up.
Thank you, Corey.
As long as they do for him.
And Bob, for next year, if for some reason we don't get the hospital grant or a similar grant, then Park and Rec can have a discussion on whether the rec revolving account could potentially cover that. So
Fully
I
agree.
don't want to scare anyone away and say
No.
we would if we definitely lose it, there may be other opportunities. David's gotten a bunch of grants as well, so if it's not through the hospital, it might be through something else.
Fully agree. Any other questions? Franny?
Yeah, I worked a little bit with David when the town was part of the age-friendly communities, if I got the words right, yeah. And when I saw this, I said, that must be an outgrowth of that work. Maybe you could tell everybody else a little bit about what that was and what came out of
Yeah,
it.
so about 2 years ago, the town, Parks and Rec, and Rockingham Planning Commission did a survey to determine the level of age friendliness that Exeter, along with other towns and communities in the Seacoast area, we were one of 6 that year. And Fran helped us out a lot with spreading the word and getting people to respond to the survey. And I wouldn't say that the survey didn't ask questions on like personnel staff. It was more along like housing and transportation and leisure and recreational services. But a lot of that work has helped us move in the right direction. And we are now part of AARP's network of age-friendly communities.
Because I know our advisory committee
Yeah.
specifically felt there should be somebody who
Yeah, so our
was
senior
an
council
expert
now-
or specialized in the seniors. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, our senior council supports this part-time person, and the formation of a senior council was one of the things that came out of that survey. Transportation is definitely a big topic. It has been for years. Additional social programs and opportunities too, because isolation is a major problem with older adults. So, and I think those are the main topics. Oh, and information sharing. So the senior resource guide was created, and we're trying to improve information online as well as printed and posted around town. So those were the main themes that came out of that. But yeah, our senior council is active. We meet about once a month, and they are very supportive of this position and spoke at a recent select board meeting.
Chris?
Shifting gears, Greg, we worked with you on the Sustainability Advisory Committee the past couple of years to work on your bottle filling station, which apparently worked pretty well the past couple seasons. You worked very hard to get refillable bottles for campers and things along those lines. I guess I'd ask a sort of a two-part question. How is that all still going? Looking forward to 2025, and is there a budget impact to that, or are there sponsorships, or how does that look?
Surprisingly, Chris, the water consumption is not as high as you would think in the water filling stations for whatever reason. Rec Park is slightly higher, and this year was skewed a little bit because we were trying to do some maintenance projects and use that same meter so it skewed the numbers. But I can tell you in the concession-wise, we have gone totally away from single-use plastics. If you haven't seen the cool Gatorade cans, we sell them at the concession stand. They're actually very popular. Everyone calls them retro. And yeah, we've moved in that direction, and we'll continue to be supportive of trying to move. And that's one of the things when we went for the mowing robots and sustainability, we're looking at that as an alternative because it's just so much carbon dioxide is produced from our zero-turn mowers that we're reducing some of our carbon footprint.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Corey, new wage and/or insurance information?
Yes, no change to wages. Health insurance is 93,743, 93743. Dental is 4,397, 4397. And then town retirement is 41,475, 41475.
New benefits?
166,128, 166,128.
Okay. And the new recreation total would be?
504,372, 504,372.
I will entertain a motion for that amount.
So moved. Liz.
Liz moves. Who's second?
Chris, second.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, on to parks. Chris?
Well, Parks is kind of the same, well, it's not the same as rec as far as the budgeting. One thing is they weren't looking to add a part-time position. There was some changes with contract services, which I'm sure Greg can address, and other than that, it's really very straightforward.
At this time, we're not looking to add any contracted services, but as you know, as I was here in front of you last year, what the emphasis of getting the robots actually came from the discussion last year because we had accepted taking $11,000 out of contracted services to hire mowers. Instead, we just purchased mowers that will help mow the fields. And to give you an allocation, so approximately 14 hours a week it takes for two guys to mow Rec Park and Brickyard. We have now cut that down to 2 with our mowers. So if you go with the robots, yeah,
cool.
If you go by Brickyard, they're mowing all the time. Rec Park, pretty much the same. We found them very efficient and quiet and safe. I mean, I rave about the robots. But we also turned, one of the things is we also have another robot, we call her Meryl Streep. She's our painting robot, so we paint athletic fields. Last year, I think I mentioned, we had a gentleman in town that painted for all of the organizations, especially the ones that used our fields, we now paint for those organizations and charge them a premium.
Oh, that's
And
the business.
we've turned parks into a revenue source. So this year, we generated with the striping robot about $11,500, which pays for the striping robot and most of the mowing robots. So it's a kind of a break even. Ideally, we need more staff. Again, we have two, more contract service, I should say. We have 2 guys for 56 acres, but it's a tough budget year. I'm not going to really put an emphasis on that. We do well on volunteers, and we've been lucky. We've had a lot of volunteers around town that, and different projects. One of the big projects you've seen was we painted the pool. The pool house got repainted, all by volunteer work, except for our staff doing the high work near the windows and trim. But being able to get them from being on the mowers has benefited, but obviously having more time off mowers so they can actually do park improvements and park repairs would be ideal, but not about to go and say, I want X amount of dollars, because it's a tough budget year, obviously.
Questions?
Making it work.
So you bought the 2 robot mowers under this line?
No, the robot mowers come out of our rec revolving fund.
They do, okay.
Yep. So no taxpayer dollars, and Bob, we have 7 mowing robots.
Taking over.
And Exeter TV did a great piece on it, and we actually just put out, if you got our newsletter, we are taking suggestions for names. So we are naming the robots. Let them come in. We're gonna come narrow it down and then present it to the select board.
So with this equipment, we
Exactly what I thought.
don't
Keep 'em
need
there
as
all
much
night.
contract services, but because we have so much land to manage and not enough staff, you're still going to be spending the money.
Correct.
It would sound like.
Yes. And this year, unfortunately, we're short-staffed. I know that's a common theme the last 5 years.
What's the year-to-date, Corey, on that?
About 67,300.
Wow, okay.
Quick question regarding staffing then?
Sure.
So, as I understood it, you only have 2 employees in parks, right?
Since
And-
August 1.
And your statement says you're down 1.
Yeah.
So you got 1 worker bee.
1 worker bee right now.
Weren't you raking leaves the other day?
I was just going to say that. I called Greg the other day, and
Yeah.
he was helping with the pool
Yeah.
painting. And
Yeah, I helped, because we were short-staffed, we did our second coat of the pool painting, which saves thousands of dollars.
Thank you.
And every week I allocate about 5 hours to 6 hours of my time. My wife loves it when I work at home after, to helping him blow leaves. So anyone that's gone by Townhouse Common the last couple weeks will see me with a backpack blower out there and blowing those leaves.
Just kind of, I mean, it's just probably bad luck. It's just kind of ironic. We hired 2 robots and we lost 1 human. I mean, I hope that wasn't the approximate cause.
No.
We're
I doubt
hopefully
it was,
adding a
but-
human Monday
But
night.
it's just kind of ironic. I just want to.
Okay, good.
Again, state the
Yeah,
obvious.
there's no connection.
Hopefully we can find another human.
Yeah, we are going to the board Monday night and hopefully,
Right.
yeah.
To be fully staffed.
Oh, you hope to
At
be
2.
fully staffed soon?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, great.
Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions for Greg on the parks budget? New benefits numbers, Corey?
Actually, in this case, we need to start at the top, Bob. Full-time wages
Got it.
decreased to 91,291. New salaries total 95,791. 95791. New health 46,326. 46326. New dental 2,685. 2685. New FICA 5,939. 5939. New Medicare 1,389. 1389. New retirement 12,587. 12587. No other changes below. New benefits total, sorry,
Yep.
$69,022, 69022.
Okay. Any questions on the general expenses? Excuse me. There was an explanation on vehicle maintenance in the subcommittee report. So the new parks total would be?
$274,714, 274,714.
I'll entertain a motion for that number.
So moved.
Second, Amanda.
Chris Zigmont moved, Amanda second. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
What's the new percentage on that?
The new percentage is 9.2.
Okay. So for, just to complete the math, the total Parks and Rec,
Yep.
Corey?
$779,086, 779,086.
And the percentage on that, please, Corey.
13.1.
Okay, thank you. On to page 29, other cultural and recreation.
The only one that I am charged with is the summer concerts, which we're level funded, but the fireworks, we're asking for a $2,000 increase for two reasons. You've heard the insurance numbers for health and benefits going up. Well, the insurance numbers for liability are skyrocketing for fireworks companies. Not only that, but the cost of the fireworks have increased tremendously. And not to be corny here, but to get more bang for our buck, we need to add a little bit more,
More
money
bang.
to it. But also in that line, this year, it's become apparent that we need a police detail down on the Powder House Point when we're setting up the fireworks. It's amazing to see how many people walk around barricades, caution tape that say caution, explosives ahead, and
Question authority.
to the point where they
At the risk of your health.
they were pretty aggressive dealing with our deputy fire chief. So I mean, it took us to even park a fire truck across it to prevent people from walking.
So as
Talking with-
stupidity goes up, then our costs for liability go up,
Yeah.
apparently.
Talking with
Starting
the
yesterday.
police recommend a police detail because they won't talk back to the police. Portsmouth, Rochester, Dover, once the moments the fireworks land on the premises, they have a police detail there.
Any questions on the fireworks request? Before we do any voting on that, I want to add to the discussion on the Christmas lights and the parade, which are sort of part of the same general activities around town that residents seem to enjoy. I had received an email from one of the volunteers, Beth Dupel, who does a lot of work for both the Christmas, decorating the town, the parade, as well as the Memorial Day activities. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's an interesting discussion. Basically, her comment is that the Memorial Day parade, which is evidently mostly a police detail, seems to be part of the police budget. They either donate their time or it comes out of whatever overtime, or it doesn't get billed as a separate line item. At least that's what she's saying. I looked through the budget to see if I could find anything from a Memorial Day parade, and I couldn't find anything. Yeah, and again, I'm paraphrasing what she had said. She did say that the cost of the police detail has gone up. It was $1,800 last year, and '22 it was over $2,000. The other thing is that so I guess what she was saying is that the cost of the police detail comes out of their budget, for the Christmas parade and other things, and she was asking for a $2,000 increase to the Christmas parade budget.
So to have the town pay the detail?
Yeah, again, I don't know exactly, the logistics around it. She just said that they have their budget of $4,500, and that a lot of that was to pay for expenses that have gone up, primarily the police detail, evidently. And then the other was the holiday lights. She said the budget's been level since 2016, when it went from $3,500 to $5,000. It's not just the lights, it's the greenery and things like that, which they've been able to get some grants, donations, things like that, and a lot of volunteers. But she was looking for $1,000 because the budget had not been increased in 7 years, 8 years, and it was being harder and harder, she said, to find the volunteers and the greenery, and as well as the new lights and replacing it, et cetera, et cetera. So those were the requests.
And just so everyone's aware, I just checked my notes, and I don't have additional requests for that, so.
Right, it's not official.
When we put together the preliminary budget, this was not part of the process.
Yes, this was in late October.
Right. Just wanted everybody to be clear on that.
Yes. I guess another part of the funding part for the holiday is that the Exeter band is pretty much the only band evidently in the parade now, because the other high schools want to get transportation fees, because they have to take a bus and everything to the event. So if we can't pay them, then they don't come. So, I mean, I don't have little kids anymore. I happen to think the holiday parade's pretty nice, but I would defer to people who have little kids to see if it's a desultory affair or if it's still pretty good. I think it's still pretty good. But it seems like it's fine to me, but...
You don't need little kids to enjoy a parade. I'm out there.
I enjoy the parade. I'm just thinking for what the demographic is.
I'm telling you.
So I guess what she said, Russ, is it's brought to her attention that the $3,500 for the Memorial Day parade does not include a cost for the police detail. It's absorbed into the department's salary, but for the holiday parade, they're billed for the detail.
We're looking it up right
That's
now.
what she said.
That's what we're.
Question
Judy.
for Russ. What's the usual procedure? I mean, we're getting this request out of sequence, it seems like. Is she not part of the, development of the preliminary budget, or?
So we don't, that's correct. I mean, when we go through the preliminary budget, we essentially level fund these unless we get a request to do more. I think this is just sort of out of order. Not out of order as in out of order.
Just out of time. Timing's
out of order as in the process. The process is a little bit different here.
Yeah.
What she did say is
jumped right over Russ, went straight to Bob.
if we align the police detail accounting on the holiday parade to be the same as the Memorial Day parade, i.e. it gets absorbed in their budget, then she doesn't need an increase to the parade budget.
Yeah.
That does seem sort of odd that the two are billed differently, and
that's something I don't know.
That's not our purview.
Yeah. So that is.
It's not true?
I don't think so. I'm seeing police detail Memorial Parade in 2023 got billed to veterans activities. We did a journal entry to bring it in.
So I guess the answer is, and again, we can decide on the holiday lights again. I'm bringing it up just because she sent me the email. The budget hadn't been raised or adjusted in the lights for 8 years. So I bring it up. She's looking for they are looking for an increase of what would be 20%.
Bob, the suggestion here is if we
Love to hear.
can, if the team here can tackle the issue, we might be able to handle this administratively as opposed to adding money to the budget.
Excellent.
So I'd offer that for you.
And I can,
I'll
if
take
you'd
it.
like, I can forward you the email. I know I had mentioned that, and I just, I forgot. So I'll do that.
And Bob, I thought the observation about no other bands from other towns not showing up was interesting. I did notice that in the last couple of years. I kind of missed it.
Yeah.
And I don't even have kids in town anymore.
I love a good band.
You know, just I think it's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
And to
It
give
is.
you,
I mean,
give
she
you a
would know.
point of reference, like Londonderry usually wants $2,000 to $3,000 to show up for a holiday
Right.
parade.
Wow.
Buses are really
No,
expensive.
it's more to fund. It's a fundraiser for them to go to their Disney trip where they
Yes.
play, or the Rose Bowl, or wherever they play, Macy's. So it helps offset the cost.
So any further discussion on, we'll start with other cultural and recreation. I will entertain a motion to keep the budget at $18,500.
So moved.
Second, Liz.
Judy moves, Liz seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And, yeah, you guys can deal with the request, and I will pass along her observations to you.
Thank you.
Special events to include Exeter Brass Band, veterans, activities, and fireworks, which includes a $2,000 increase for the reasons that Greg articulated. Any further discussion? I will entertain a motion for $18,000 budget for that.
So moved.
Second.
Judy moves, Liz seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
One abstention. Abstaining.
One abstention.
You're abstaining on fireworks?
Yeah. They're an environmental disaster, and I can't vote for that.
Okay, got it. All right.
He's still got to go to his meetings. I like that.
Good for you.
I like that.
Man of principle.
Okay. I think that is the general fund budget. Did we miss anything?
In this process, Bob,
I
would
got.
Beth be encouraged to have a discussion ahead of time about what the additional?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why, because she has volunteered in town for years, so I'm not quite sure why. I don't know why.
We did-
I don't want to put words.
Could
in
have been
her
the bills just came in for
Yeah.
what's going to cost this year.
Yeah, I will say we did meet in March. We met in late March, but figures hadn't been developed at that time, so that's something that we just haven't seen. We haven't seen the dollars.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think the big thing was just to figure out the whole police accounting and charging, that would probably solve a lot of the issues, and then we could figure out the lights internally, would be my guess.
LEDs.
There you go. So, on page 32, Corey, what would be the new general fund budget?
Total budget?
Yep.
For general fund.
$24,164,024. 24164,024.
Jeez.
So what's that, like 4.7?
Amen, sister.
Percentage?
5.7.
5.7? Yikes. Okay, well, since that is our duties on the general fund, I will entertain a motion to accept and present to the select board a budget for the general fund of $24,164,024.
So moved.
Second.
Chris Sigmont moves, Amanda seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No abstention?
Such a
Just
sad
note
eye.
the comparison of the total with the total in '23. Significant increase.
Yeah, 5.7%. And we still have our friends at CIP to talk about next week. So speaking of CIP, I did actually miss the boat. There are two items for parks One is on page 6, which is the Parks revolving fund. Their request, and Greg quite nicely did give us a list of all of their projects, which it appears far exceeds the request that's being made, but he chips away at the list, much as we asked the maintenance department to do. So if you could look at that over the course of the next week. And then the other one is on page 62 of the CIP book, which is a new ADA accessible van that the Parks Department wishes to purchase. And my homework for next Thursday would be, it says in the book, the price is an estimated price. If we can get something a little bit more definitive than that,
Well, we
like
have a
specifications.
Number of quotes.
Great. Just,
You want to talk a little more about how you're approaching that purchase?
Yeah, talking with the executive team, we're actually going to be looking to, for a slightly used ADA accessible van with low mileage on it. That will save us substantial money, but also we'd approach it where we'd look to fund it over 5 years, half from the revolving fund and half from the general fund. So, but, I mean, when we're talking slightly used under 20,000 miles, could save us about $30,000.
That's great.
so you would still be looking for the infusion into the funds, but you wouldn't necessarily need a warrant article or a lease purchase on this piece of equipment.
We would do a lease purchase.
It would,
for 5
okay.
years.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think we're just showing the first year payment on it in the budget, if I'm remembering correctly.
Get the warranty.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you for that update. And again, if you can maybe get closer to, what the actual budget might be, that'd be helpful.
Super cool.
Okay, so before we leave next week, we have 2 meetings. On Tuesday is the DPW, because Monday is Veterans Day. The Select Board are meeting here on Tuesday, so we will be meeting in the library conference room next Tuesday at 6:30 for the DPW Water and Sewer Subcommittee. And then on Thursday is the CIP discussion. So it'll be a busy week, but we should effectively be done after next Thursday.
Bob, did you want an update on the tax rate, or?
Thank you for reminding me. That would be great. If you could spend a few minutes on that, that would be awesome.
Tom is interested.
So we worked with DRA today on the town's new preliminary tax rate, and the number is $17.79 per thousand.
Please repeat.
Could you repeat that?
$17.79 per thousand.
Includes the schools.
So that includes the schools. That's a fully loaded rate with everybody on board. The town share has declined from $6.23 down to $4.20. So that's the town share.
$4.20.
Yes, and the school rate is $11.72 out of that total figure.
So I'm sorry, what is the current rate just for?
$26.78.
Of which the town is
$6.23.
$6.23.
Right, so our rate dropped $2.03 per thousand.
Excellent.
And obviously, with the revaluation, people's tax bills will be determined by how much their value went up. But that is an $8.99 drop in the rate.
What was the previous school? Just so I have all
The
6
previous
numbers.
school.
Do you have that?
Do you know it?
Yeah, give me just 2 seconds.
Yeah. It was over 17, but
Read on the town of Exeter, if you go town of Exeter.
There's 2 other aspects to it, right?
Right, the county rate is 61 cents per thousand, and the state education tax is $1.26 per thousand. Thanks, Dan.
And Russ, could you just briefly tell us how this was arrived at, as people are going to ask?
So basically, it's taking the town's budget and the school budgets and dividing by the assessed valuation. County budget is an assessment that's assessed to the town on a proportional basis. And then the state education tax is a statutory schematic that the state education tax is raised through a set number that's set by the state that tells us how much we need to raise.
Okay, before we leave, big shout out to Chris and Liz.
Yep, absolutely.
Probably a little bit more detailed discussion this year than in many years, but not unworthwhile. I think we made there were a lot of good points, a lot of good analysis. So appreciate everyone's forbearance. And again, we will meet next Tuesday at 6:30 at the library to talk about water and sewer. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We will adjourn till next Tuesday at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.